Hello, my name is Alan Weld, and today I will be presenting to you one of the most terrifying viral diseases known to man, rabies. My goal is to raise awareness of rabies because although there is no cure, it is completely preventable if you have the right knowledge. So let's dig in. First, I'd like to introduce rabies by going over its history, origin, and what it is. Then we will discuss the details of the disease, such as timelines, how it works, the different types, its risk factors, followed by actions that we can perform in order to combat this. The word rabies is derived from the Latin word rabere, madness, which is unsurprising considering the typically aggressive behavior of rabid animals. Possibly the oldest disease known to man, rabies has been plaguing humanity for millennia. Rabies was first mentioned in Mesopotamian laws on ancient cuneiform tablets dating back to 1930 BC, and has been described in the writings of ancient Greek philosophers such as Aristotle and Hippocrates, as well as illustrated by medieval artists as shown in this woodcut below. Rabies is caused by rabies lyssavirus, which is usually transmitted to new host when saliva enters the bloodstream via bite wounds from an infected mammal, though other methods of transmission have been reported, such as infected organ transplants, improper vaccinations, contamination of mucous membranes, and even aerosol transmission in bat caves. Responsible for approximately 65,000 deaths annually, there are only 14 documented cases of humans surviving rabies in its entire history, making it essentially 100% fatal. After entering the bloodstream, our lyssavirus travels to the peripheral nervous system, where it then spreads to the central nervous system and rapidly multiplies, ultimately causing fatal swelling of the brain, known as encephalitis. Prior to death, the virus branches from the central nervous system to the rest of the peripheral nervous system, including the salivary glands, which causes foaming at the mouth, a mechanism that aids in viral transmission. Though the primary global vector of rabies is the domesticated dog, which accounts for 99% of total human infections, rabies is relatively rare in North America, which averages only 1 to 3 cases per year, most of which are associated with bats. Other common carriers in North America include foxes, skunks, and raccoons. Here's a map of the United States which shows a variety of animals that have been found infected with rabies in each state. Of note, rabies-positive bats have been found in every state except Hawaii. Rabies has 2 forms, both with 5 stages: incubation, prodrome, neurologic illness, coma, and death. Once bitten, the incubation period lasts around 2 to 3 months, but can be as short as 4 days or as long as a year, determined by the viral concentration and the location of the bite. During the prodrome stage, victims experience relatively tame viral syndrome, headaches, fever, malaise, and tingling at the bite site. At stage 3, neurologic illness, the disease diverges into either the classic encephalitic rabies, called furious rabies, or the less common paralytic rabies, which is called dumb rabies. Patients with classic rabies may or may not experience a short-lasting coma within 2 to 7 days of prodrome, while those with dumb rabies may live up to 30 days after initial signs of symptoms and then slip into a longer-lasting coma. Both forms of rabies ultimately cause death, usually from respiratory or cardiac arrest. Of the 2 forms, furious rabies is more common, kills quicker, and is easier to diagnose due to its more aggressive symptoms, which include hallucinations, frothing at the mouth, hyperactivity, aggressive behavior, and hydrophobia. The man in this video is showing signs of hydrophobia, which literally means fear of water. Hydrophobia causes excruciatingly painful neck spasms when the victim hears, sees, or tastes water. This causes the victim to stop drinking and swallowing, which aids in viral transmission by causing dehydration, which results in thick saliva with a high viral concentration. Shortly after this video was taken, a coma had to be induced due to his agitated and restless behavior. 6 days after hospital admission, the patient was taken home by his family where he passed away. Dumb rabies accounts for only 20% of human rabies cases, and it typically runs a longer course than furious rabies, with different symptoms including lethargy, bladder dysfunction, and limb weakness, which slowly progress into a 2 to 7 day coma that eventually results in death. Due to the less dramatic symptoms, this form of rabies has a higher risk of being misdiagnosed and underreported. It is imperative that rabies be diagnosed as quickly as possible, because by the time symptoms appear, death is practically guaranteed. Unfortunately, at this time, there are no diagnostic tests available to determine if a person has rabies prior to showing symptoms, at which point they would be too late to save. As such, if bitten by an animal, the best course of action is to seek medical aid and get vaccinated immediately. There are tests that can be done post-mortem, however, so if you are able to capture the animal that bit you, a brain biopsy can be performed to determine the presence of rabies antigens, which are only produced when the body is exposed to rabies lyssavirus. Risk factors of rabies include traveling in developing countries, engaging in activities likely to expose one to wild animals, like camping, working in a lab, or veterinary work, and simply not knowing what to do when exposed. Children are the most at risk, being 4 times as likely as adults to get rabies because they are more likely to be bitten and less likely to report it. These risks can be mitigated by public education, pet vaccination, administration of pre-exposure prophylaxis, and reporting strays to animal control. Though rabies is untreatable, it is preventable via post-exposure prophylaxis, or PEP, which consists of wound cleansing, multi-stage vaccination, and injection of rabies immune globulin. PEP is given to over 29 million people annually and is estimated to prevent hundreds of thousands of deaths per year, as it is nearly 100% effective if administered promptly after exposure. If you don't have access to vaccination, wound cleansing alone has been proven to significantly reduce the chance of contracting rabies after being bitten. While vaccination is vital, washing your wound within the first 30 minutes can greatly reduce the likelihood of contracting the disease. An animal study in 1954 showed a 53% survival rate of rabies-exposed mice with washed wounds compared to a mere 3% observed in the control group. That's an increase of 1,800%. With such effective measures available to us, you might be wondering why over 65,000 people die from rabies per year. Most cases of rabies occur in undeveloped countries, and while affordability and accessibility are roadblocks in PEP administration, the primary obstacle in these countries is a lack of public awareness and knowledge. While PEP is great, ideally we should avoid exposure in the first place, which can be done using the following preventative measures. Utilizing proper PPE, such as thick gloves when handling wild animals and shovels when disposing of deceased animals, avoiding animals exhibiting aggressive or aberrant behavior, such as nocturnal animals being active in the daytime, or normally skittish species appearing docile, and keeping your pet's vaccinations current. That way, if they are bitten by an infected animal, they will not endanger you or your family. So, what can we do about rabies? Undoubtedly, the best way to reduce the yearly death toll would be the elimination of rabies via mass vaccination of the primary vector, dogs. Major health organizations, including the CDC, USDA, and World Health Organization, are working together to completely eliminate rabies-related deaths caused by dogs by the year 2030. Everyday folks like you and I can also spread awareness by talking to others about this disease and observing World Rabies Day, which takes place on September 28th, the death anniversary of Louis Pasteur. And last but not least, we can educate ourselves and others by learning about the warning signs of rabies and familiarizing ourselves with local animals in order to pinpoint any unusual behavior. It may also be prudent to develop and discuss a post-exposure action plan with your family, so that if you or your loved ones are exposed, the proper steps can be taken to avoid contracting rabies. Once again, my name is Alan Weld, and I would like to thank you all for checking out my presentation on rabies. I'd like to give a quick shout out to slides.com where I was able to get this free template. And here's my email address in case anyone has any questions. And on the next slide, there are references for those who would like to learn more. Thank you.